commitments and guarantees we had given to ourselves in the Indian Constitution. Apart from talking of liberty, equality, and fraternity, we promised justice. And that justice is social, economic, and political. For all, I quote, irrespective of caste, creed, or sex, unquote. And this, from this parameter, if you see what is happening, it is actually a very, very rapid downslide in terms of ensuring this justice for vast majority of our people. Any true patriot will rise to the occasion to demand what we have promised as guarantees to ourselves, to the people of India, must be implemented. But what is the record we see? In the last session of the parliament, as the Modi government was announcing the various methods that they have taken, measures they've taken to improve the status of women in our country, what was the parliament informed? The Union Home Ministry tabled this data in the parliament, saying that 10,61,648 women above the age of 18 years and 2,51,430 girls went missing between 2019 and 2021, according to the data compiled by the National Crime Records Bureau. And most ghastly and frightening, what it shows is that this data, that there is an average of 86 rape cases lodged daily, with 49 offenses against women per hour in 2021. The number of rape cases went up by 15.3%, and we've seen the gruesome cases of gang rapes and murders of our Dalit sisters. And despite the big hue and cry, the criminals were not really pursued and prosecuted. So we find a certain degree of patronage for these crimes to grow. And at the same time, the attacks on our Dalits has grown from, the same report President in Parliament said, 1,89,945 crimes against Dalit community were registered in the last 4 years. The crimes against our tribal brothers and sisters has grown by 6.4%. Now, this is the state of the most marginalized sections in our society and in our country. We are actually moving away, further and further, rapidly away from the commitments and promises we had made to ourselves in the Constitution. Social justice today assumes utmost importance. And that is also happening because what is the real status of our backward classes? What has been the result of that reservation, and to determine the actual quantum of reservation for the subcategorization of these OBCs, when we demand that there should be a caste census, the Modi government has been refusing it consistently and doggedly. Not only the caste census, they have even indefinitely now postponed the 2021 general census because of the fear that with the general census, the demand for the caste census will gain momentum. This is the first time. It's never happened even during the world wars that the general census was stopped. During the Second World War, you ever had a truncated one, but it was never stopped. But now, this year, under this Modi government, you have the general census being stopped. COVID pandemic, it could have been postponed by a year. It could have easily happened by now. But no, they don't want to do it because they don't want this caste census to reveal the actual truth of what is the composition of our society and who is garnering the benefits that are there in our country, and what a minuscule percentage of upper caste and the privilege are cornering all these benefits. We have seen the number of billionaires in our country rising. Good if people are thriving, but at what expense? At the expense of the mass majority of the people for whom the miseries are actually mounting and increasing. Today, the Prime Minister announced the scheme in the Parliament in this session, which is the special session that began, called the Vishwakarma scheme, to benefit certain artisans who belong to the artisan sections, who belong to the OBCs. The same Vishwakarma scheme was announced by the Prime Minister from the ramparts of the Red Fort on the Independence Day, saying 13 to 15,000 crores will be spent to help. This will be given to these artisans for their welfare. Now, what is the scheme that has been outlined in the Parliament now? That scheme is actually loans to be given to these sections, and loans at a 5% interest rate, not even interest-free loans. Now, these loans are supposed to help these artisans and these OBCs to improve their economic condition. But the basic fact remains that unless the economic activity in the country, in the economy as a whole, picks up, none of these occupations will ever have a demand, like the carpenters, like the goldsmiths. All of them will have a demand when economic activity is rising. On the contrary, what has been happening now? The economy is actually deflating. All this propaganda about your GDP rates, saying that we will be the 5th largest economy in the world. We will be, because of the sheer size of the country. By 2027, our GDP at the current rates will cross the 3rd and the 4th country in the world, and we will become the 3rd after USA and China. But what is the reality? In terms of per capita income, we rank 142nd among the 180 odd countries in the world. We just had the G20 summit. 4,100 crores of rupees was spent on holding the summit and its propaganda and its projection. But then what is the truth? We say that India is going to be the voice of the global South. India is going to show the way in terms of economic growth. But then the truth is, India is the lowest in terms of per capita GDP amongst all these 20 countries. We have the worst human development indices ranked amongst all these 20 countries. We have the lowest labor force participation rate among all these countries, which means the lowest percentage of people who are actually employed involved in productive work. So if economy is not really rising, then any benefit to these artisans can never benefit, irrespective of how much money you may give them or make available to them for loans. The question is their incapacity to return the loans because of declining economic activity. They will not be able to earn larger incomes to pay the interest on these loans, leave alone returning the loans. So therefore, all these schemes, all such schemes are more for propaganda and spin before the general elections that are coming. But overall, in terms of social justice, if you see, if the politics of communal polarization are sharpened in order to win elections, in order to change the secular democratic character of the Indian Republic into a fascistic Hindutva Rashtra, then if these crimes against humanity, if sharpened communal polarization, campaigns of poisonous hate and violence, targeting of your religious minorities, if such crimes are on the rise, which they are, and they are horrifically on the rise, and as elections come closer, particularly in the BJP-ruled states, we will find such crimes increasing exponentially. And when overall dehumanization like this takes place through sharpening communal polarization. It is always the marginalized and the deprived and the backward who suffer the most. So that is why in today's situation, if we want to really achieve a progress in social justice, it is essential that these Hindutva elements who are today wanting to take the country back into the darkness of the past, we of the India bloc want to take India into the brightness of the future. That is the choice before us. Social justice can only be achieved if we take our country forward to the brightness of the future and not into the backwardness of our past, the darkness of our past. Choice is between darkness and brightness, the past and the future. We look for the future. Stalin is an important member and leader of this India bloc, and all of us as part of this India bloc are working together to ensure that we have to save India today so that we can change India for the better tomorrow. And that better India will be an India that will be moving towards achieving social justice and against caste atrocities, against oppression on terms of caste, against oppression in terms of gender, against the oppression of your marginalized backward castes and Dalits, against oppression of our tribals, against oppression of women in general, and particularly crimes. I've been opposing strongly the crimes against women. So I join all the parties present here, and I will once again thank Stalin for giving this opportunity for the Communist Party of India Marxists to be part of this larger grouping in order to take the country forward into the brightness of the future and not the darkness of the past, and move towards achieving social justice. Once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. Welcome to all.